Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Now, music and film have always had a unique relationship. Sometimes they shake hands, and sometimes they shake hands like the cover of the Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here album. For those who don't know the reference, a man who isn't on fire shakes hands with a man who is, filmed in the Warner Brothers studio lot, or so we've been told. Now, one of the most interesting instances of a marriage between film and music that really rocked my world is it took place in the early 1930s, and it was when Wilhelm Mengelberg, who was a great maestro, one of the great conductors of all time, the man who put the Concertgebouw Orchestra on the map. He traveled to a film studio in Paris where they recreated the entire look of the stage of the famous Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, and they filmed Mengelberg conducting some short pieces. There was Weber's Oberon Overture. There was, I think, a Bizet piece. You can check it out on YouTube, although they really ought to locate the original film and do the whole 4K treatment. But it was very interesting because the equipment itself was considered so bulky and immovable that it was easier for the craftsmen to recreate the appearance of the Concertgebouw in a studio in Paris than actually take the film and sound recording equipment, up the proverbial street to Holland. And since then, there have been many interesting occasions for music to be on film. Again, in the classical world, Herbert von Karajan is someone who loved all forms of multimedia, sound and visual, and was a master of filmmaking. Some of the most aesthetically beautiful films of a symphony orchestra were the ones that were directed by Karajan in the late 60s and 70s. Now, many other forms of music have had a great relationship with film, and in the sort of rock and progressive rock world, Pink Floyd are arguably the most cinematic of all groups, whether it was the soundtracks that they provided music, both original and underscored to, whether it was their Live in Pompeii that was professionally shot in 35mm film, which has just been redone in 4K, not redone, but, remastered. They took the negatives, scanned them in 4K, and it looks absolutely as gorgeous as it ought to, whether it was The Wall, both a very cinematic style live theatrical performance, or the later film the Mr. Screen that projected interesting animation and other films on the stage to specifically accompany certain moments in the musical performance. Pink Floyd have always integrated the cinematic and the visual and the theatrical into their performances, and Roger Waters, being sort of the creative force behind the band, has certainly done a lot of this with his solo tours, whether it was bringing the great Jim Ladd out on the road with him for the Radio Chaos tour, which sort of mocked having a radio show live in the venue, whether it was Roger Waters building a wall in Berlin just a few months after the real wall had come down, and then blowing it up at the conclusion of a star-studded performance of The Wall. He's always been at the forefront of things. And in 2010, he arguably outdid himself by bringing The Wall on tour with an even more elaborate stage version of the original one that Pink Floyd did at the beginning of the 80s. Now, he's just done a new tour, and he's released a concert film shot in 4K, documenting the event. And it's a great one, I have to say. This time he decided to do it in the round. His previous tour, Us and Them, sort of transformed the auditorium into a cinema itself with screens on either side of the audience. And this time around, he still has these sort of screens all around, but the band itself is on a massive stage dead center in the arenas. And the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. It really puts the viewer of the film into, I can't really say a front row seat because it's in the round. Well, I guess there's several fronts, but it really gives you that circular, spherical feeling watching this. So, from a cinematographic point of view, it's really good. From a musical point of view, he's playing a combination of some recent songs that have a lot to do with political commentary and tying them in with some older Pink Floyd songs he wrote, which again, most if not all of them are very political and also personal. And one of the things that Roger Waters has always been great at as a lyricist is tying the micro into the macro, the personal into the political, the spiritual into the militant, and all of these different things where he's really painting a series of contrasts and showing how these contrasts have a similar sociological, psychological, and emotional center. Hence the center stage. Don't know if he thought of it that way, but hey, for a very metaphorical lyricist, I think the lyrics absolutely work. We all know his voice isn't what it used to be, but he did very well, and you can even tell that while he may have had some technological help and he had some great backing vocalists, he is for the most part, or at least for a lot of it, singing live. You can hear the raw and realness in his voice. Now, apart from the new tracks, the old tracks are not going to be a surprise, but nevertheless, the way that he presents them is original. For instance, when he brought The Wall back on tour in 2010, he said, I'm going to emphasize the existing political narrative and elevate that over the more interpersonal narrative, while still keeping both. And one of the things he's been doing with his old Pink Floyd songs is he is presenting them in a way that amplify the already existing political themes and sort of toning down some of the interpersonal. It's not a 50, it's not, 100%, 0%. It's more of an 80-20 equation. And because of that, some people say, oh, can we not just have the poetry and I can pretend that there's no political messages? Those sorts of people probably won't enjoy the show. The people who have always known and accepted that Roger's lyrics in Pink Floyd and his solo career were political will probably love it because it is very political. And that leads us to the whole concept of okay boomer, because Roger Waters is both the quintessential boomer and the anti-boomer. He's the quintessential boomer in that he thinks that Neil Young and Bob Dylan are better than today's or subsequent singer-songwriters. He doesn't necessarily know the names of a lot of contemporary artists. He is someone of his generation. On the other hand, he has embraced a lot of political causes and specific political individuals who are very much related to the younger generation, their concerns, their passions, their style of activism. And it just goes to show you that if you sort of embrace who you are and don't try to be something else, the young people who are of your same, philosophical or political proclivities will probably follow along with you. And that's another thing that's very apparent in the film. The audience cheering along is very young, and you cannot say the same for many artists of that era. So I consider this a winner. Definitely check it out. It's going to be, I think it already is now available on all of the streaming platforms, video and audio. So check it out. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.